Hello and welcome to another adventure. You're with Ainsley, the NZ Adventurer, and here I am today just out on a hike. We've come to this amazing spot, the Ballroom Overhang, this amazing cast limestone, I think it is, valley, and this huge overhang here, and it's actually a campsite, which is pretty cool. And I've just got back from a huge trip. I think you might have seen it on the post on YouTube, and while I was up on that adventure I did a huge packraft, an east to west traverse of the Kahurangi National Park, and one of the videos I recorded for you guys was around safety and sort of looking after yourself in the backcountry, and I had that all sorted. And then on the last day, it's quite ironic, I had a bit of a situation in the packraft and I lost the GoPro and the footage is gone. So I do have a question for you if you let me know in the comments. So from that footage I had a couple of different memory cards, so I do have quite a bit of the content, but I lost some of it. So the question is, do you want me to make a video out of the content that I do have, the pack crafting and fishing, or not worry about it? But for today, what I thought I'd do is re-record or go through some of that safety stuff again, because I thought it was really quite important, and some of you are asking or even worrying about me out there in the backcountry alone, and so I just thought I'd talk about risk management and some of the safety equipment. So apologies for that preamble if you've just joined the video and the channel to find out about safety. I'll put a chapter stop in for you so you can skip that bit, but just going to sit back and have some lunch, and then I'll talk to you about safety and risk management and show you some of the equipment that I use and that I recommend you use if you're on these crazy adventure slash fly fishing slash pack crafting missions out in the wilderness. Let's go. So now pretty much when I go on my adventures, whether it be just a day trip or particularly on a longer overnight trip, I'm always thinking a lot about the right equipment that's required and basically making myself safe for when something, if and when something might go wrong. So I want to just basically talk to you a little bit about that, so that hopefully you can plan your trips and make sure that you're safe out there, and perhaps prompt a bit of thinking around if there's anything you could adjust in order to ensure that you're managing risk and reducing risk when you're out there. So in some of the locations that I've been, they're just so absolutely remote, and so with that being the case, it's not only what you do when something goes wrong, but it's also how do you avoid things going wrong. And I think one of the biggest hazards is slipping, tripping and causing yourself an injury, and one of the solutions to that is good footwear. And so I always wear a boot. I generally wear a tramping boot, but you know, a wading boot is also a good option. I think they give you an extra level of protection over and above shoes. And then when it comes to your walking and your placement of your feet, when I'm on a really remote mission, I'm not jumping and leaping, and when there's logs to cross and things like that, I'm very careful, because I just think a lot about falling and some of the impacts that might have. So based on where I am, I just really scale it back and make sure that I'm taking it easy. And one of the things that also greatly improves your balance, not just for river crossings but for generally walking, is a walking pole. This is a really cool one that I use. It's only 200 grams carbon fiber, and particularly when I'm in a remote location, I just always use it. I mean, you've got 3 points of contact on the ground, you know, with 2 legs and this pole, or you can always maintain 2 when you're in a walking state. So I highly recommend a hiking pole. It doesn't matter how old you are, it's not an embarrassing thing to have. Just get one, because it makes a big difference. So that's always clipped on, and I'd have got a couple of different ones. The Falstaff is probably my favorite. but it's like 600 grams. It's very, very strong. This is like 200 grams. It's actually lasted pretty well, but that's the one that I use when I'm on my big missions. So then if we open up my bag, and I always keep a dry bag inside, I've got a little pack that I carry with me all the time. And if we have a look in this pack, this is an emergency blanket. So this little guy, when I go on my trips, I always keep in mind, you know, what if something happened? What if I couldn't make it back? What if I stayed out here? What would it be like? Would I be comfortable? And so this little cloth blanket, it's silver on the one side and it's waterproof, and so this rolls out about the size of a sleeping bag and you can jump in it. So if I broke my leg, for instance, and I couldn't move, I would get this out and I would get inside it and I would activate my safety beacon, and this would keep me somewhat warm. And so these weigh about 100 grams. I don't know if I can get it back in the packet. And it's just a step up from the foil blankets, which are good, but they only are really able to be used once, whereas I use this from time to time. I'll put it underneath my sleeping mat as an extra heat/moisture barrier on a really cold night. So that that lives in my pack the whole time. I also keep some extra warm clothes, so I've got a beanie, a scarf, some gloves, and I always generally carry some warmies as well. So because I'm always in the water and I'm pack rafting and things like that, I keep a pair of long johns. These are just polypropylene ones, but merino is ideal. And I keep some sort of thermal top. This is one I've been using lately. It's got an unusual fabric that's extremely thin, and this is long sleeve with a hood, and it weighs just 140 or 150 grams. Macpac make it. That package there, 300 grams for some extra dry clothes, which gives me you know, just another layer on top of the beanie, gloves, so I can get warm. If I get wet, I can get back warm again. I've got a torch, so anytime I go out in the afternoon, I think, well, what if I didn't get home tonight? And so the torch allows me to basically make my way in the dark. I actually find that the low beam is what you need, because it lasts a long time, and it's just to give you that little bit of safety margin. And that torch there only weighs around about 70 or 80 grams, I think, and it's rechargeable on USB-C. I've got some fire lighters, and I'm hoping there's a lighter in here. I've got matches, here we go, and matches. So I've got a fire source and some fire lighters, and then I've got a second fire source. I've got a lighter that I keep with my cooker. Hut passes. This little guy, I don't know if you saw it in my other videos, this is a splint for fixing a broken tent pole, and I've got some insulation tape wrapped around it. I've actually fished a fishing rod that was snapped using this splint, but it'll also repair my tent. And I've also got the insulation tape, which I could use to fix things, so that stays in there as well. And then I've got a medical kit, and it's double bagged. So inside here I've got sticking plasters, antihistamine, because there's a lot of wasps around in New Zealand over summer. I've got aqua tabs in here, which are little pills you can put into water and make water safe to drink. So that's for 1 litre per pill. I've got sanitizer, I've got a sewing kit, I've got Nurofen, and I've got a little gauze bandage. And so I've got the medical kit in there as well. So this just stays in my bag the whole time. It's like 200 grams, and basically it just gives me a really nice level of confidence that if something goes wrong, you know, I've got something to fall back on here. That little pouch just stays with me the whole time. I was surprised not to see a lighter in there, but I'm pretty sure if I open up this little pouch that goes inside my bag, I've got another spare lighter, and that one's wrapped in duct tape, just in case I need some tape to, say, repair the pack raft, or if I broke my fly rod, I could use a stick and splint it and then wrap it in duct tape. so that's in there. I've also got a signal mirror, which if a plane was flying over, you can use this mirror and hold it up to your eye and signal it. And I've got a whistle to attract attention. If I was injured and unable to move and I felt that there was somebody nearby, I can use a whistle. I've got some little extra bits of string. So these are the pieces of equipment that I'm using just to give myself peace of mind and keep safe. I've also got some Vaseline in here, which I've just put in this container. And if your feet are a little bit tender or you're doing a big walk and you're not used to it, in the morning I just put a massive coating of Vaseline all around my toes and in between my toes and on the heel before you put your sock on, and that will ensure that your feet have got a little bit of protection to avoid them overheating and getting blisters in the shoe. Okay, so now in terms of if there were an emergency and I needed assistance, and I think a broken leg is probably one of the worst case scenarios that is conceivable given the walking that I do and the places that I go. So first thing I would do is make myself comfortable, so I've got painkillers and the emergency blanket like I said, and then communication. So this is a PLB, this is made by ACR, it's waterproof to maybe 5 meters, and basically you open out that aerial and you hold the button down for 5 seconds and that sends off an SOS signal. It's got a registration to a couple of phone numbers, so they ring and scare the living daylights out of my wife and my mum, and then once they've ascertained whether it's a real emergency, they deploy a rescue service. And I've had this for a number of years, and I'm sad to say that I have used it, not for me, but for a friend that had the misfortune of falling off a cliff and breaking their back. They're okay now, by the way. More recently, I've got this second device, which is similar to a Zoleo or a Garmin InReach, which a lot of people have, and it's made by the same company, ACR. It's a bivvy stick, and it basically allows you to run an SOS function by opening this little door and holding the button down for 5 seconds. But this one also allows you to have two-way SMS communication, weather reports, and a check-in service. So when this is powered on, I can tap the check-in button and it will send the person that I've preset via email or SMS my location and a predetermined message. So I can click that every hour and it'll show the person where I'm at. I can Bluetooth it to my phone, and then on my phone I can compose a dynamic message, 160 characters, and send a message out to them. So this also may seem a little bit duplicated, and at first I thought it was, but then what I came to realize is that this unit here, it runs on the 406 megahertz frequency, and this one here runs on some other higher frequency. And similar to if you compare the services offered by an iPhone or a telephone, the frequency is higher and therefore doesn't travel as far, can't punch through forest and things like that, as well as the lower frequency unit. So this one will struggle to get connectivity more so than this one. So if I ran into a serious situation when I needed to raise a search party, I'll be definitely using this one. If I want to message my wife, or if there's an emergency where I need to communicate with the rescue team prior to them being dispatched, I use this one. So initially I thought I only needed one, but because of the places I go where the communication is limited by the fact that it's down in deep valleys with tree cover, I'm actually not confident with only that, and I certainly would not be confident with the latest iPhone and pressing that and relying on the iPhone to save me. So PLB is definitely the way forward, and I always carry that, and I mostly also carry that. Okay, so those are the two methods that I use to have a backup call when I'm in the backcountry, because needless to say I never have any cell phone coverage wherever I am. I just also wanted to show you this new piece of kit that I've been using, I've stopped using a tent recently, and I've got this bivvy bag, and you might think they're nuts because they're like a tiny little coffin of a tube, and you know, they're not really very luxurious to sleep in. But that little bivvy bag that I just rolled out, this is 400 grams and it's waterproof. But the thing that I've found that's incredible about this is how warm it is. And because you're in that cocoon, sometimes I don't even have a sleeping bag on. I put my mat in it and it's so hot just from being inside this that you don't need a sleeping bag. And so with that being the case, given that the emergency blanket, the 100-gram emergency blanket, which really doesn't have a lot of warmth to it, or for 400 grams you can have this bivvy bag. I love this bivvy bag, and for going forward, you just look at how small it is. That's crazy small for a shelter. I could squish it up more than that. It's got air in it. So actually, going forward, I'm going to be carrying this a lot, because the other thing is, when you get to a campsite with a tent, even with my one-person tent, sometimes it's really tricky to work out where you're going to put it. But with this bivvy bag, it just goes anywhere. It's tiny. So your whole issue, one of my mates, he's got the MSR Hubba Hubba tent. Great tent, but the footprint is quite big, and sometimes it's not easy to find a place to put it up. You need it to be level and all that sort of thing. With this, it doesn't matter. Even on a downhill slope, you just tie a piece of string on the top end and it can't go down. You can't slide out of it. Yeah, I recommend the bivvy bag, I really do. I think it's great. This is the Outdoor Research Helium. The fabric's waterproof. It's got a hoop in it to prop it up off your face, and it's got a mesh protection over your face so the bugs don't come in. It's an awesome bit of kit, and I always thought they were a bit of a joke. They were crazy, but I really like it now. It's awesome. That's a little pole that keeps it off your face, or you can use a bit of string to keep it off the tree, and it just goes into that ridiculously small bag. Another thing that I've got in here which is useful is this Lifestraw. So this allows you to purify your water. So basically you just put that into your water source and you suck through the water, and by the time it's passed through there, it's like 99.99999% of all bacteria is removed. Only problem is it doesn't remove nitrates, and it doesn't remove all viruses. So it's pretty darn good, and I use it a lot if I need to drink water. So I never carry water. That's a robin. Totowai robin. Yeah, cool little bird. So I think we've pretty much covered it all off. What else have I got here? This is my seat. Just means you're not sitting on wet ground or getting a cold bottom. I always carry a cooker as well. That's a bit of a nice to have, but you know, it's only tiny, little pot, and it's got the gas cylinder and everything just fits inside. It just means I can stop and have a hot cup of tea or a coffee anytime I want. And the whole complete setup's only like 350 grams or something like that, you know, there's nothing to it. So you see me wandering around with this big bag and you think, NZ Adventurer, what the heck are you doing? But you know, I feel safe, I feel comfortable, and I've got a lot of trust in my equipment, and so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. So hopefully for you that might either reaffirm some of the knowledge you already have, or for some of you it might give you some guidance for how you might go about modifying your equipment or your behaviour when you're out in the backcountry. Or perhaps there's a younger me out there who has never even thought about risk and never thought about safety, and I know I didn't in my 20s. But some of those things are worth thinking about, because none of us want to have an accident, and if we do have an accident or a situation, we want to be able to deal with it and manage it. We don't want to be calling a helicopter, we don't want to be in pain, we don't want to be putting our friends into any danger, and so hopefully some of that will help you out. So there you go, I thought I'd share that information with you today, and going forward for my videos, we'll be back to the normal adventure stuff. So we'll be fly fishing, pack crafting, checking out birds, scenery and amazing locations around New Zealand, But if you've tuned into this channel just for this video, welcome, check out my channel, and I'll look forward to sharing more adventures with you. Thanks for watching.